The CIA spent decades teaching agents one specific mental technique, not to pick locks, not to shoot straight, but to think clearly under pressure. And some of the world's top performers have quietly been using it ever since. And honestly, it's way simpler than you'd expect. This method doesn't involve meditation apps, nootropics, or any of that stuff your favorite podcast host won't shut up about. It was developed specifically to help people whose literal job was to stay mentally sharp in life or death situations. I'm going to walk you through exactly what it is, why it works, and more importantly, how you can actually use it today. Because right now, most people are doing focus completely wrong. But first, let's talk about why your brain is basically a disaster at focusing in 2025. The average person switches tasks every 47 seconds. 47 seconds. That's not a focus problem, that's basically a factory defect. Most focus advice you'll hear tells you to eliminate distractions, turn off your phone, find a quiet room, maybe light a candle. And look, that stuff isn't wrong, but it's treating the symptom, not the problem. The real issue is something called attentional residue. Psychologist Sophie Leroy at the University of Washington coined this term. It describes what happens when you switch from one task to another. Your brain doesn't fully make the jump. Part of it is still stuck on the last thing you were doing. So you sit down to work, and there's this mental fog. Not because you're tired, but because your brain is literally still processing something else. This is the problem the CIA needed to solve. Agents in the field needed to go from a tense briefing to driving through a foreign city to running an operation. And they needed to be fully present for every single one of those. No mental lag, sharp every time. So, what did they come up with? Two things. The first is something you've probably heard of, but almost certainly haven't used properly: controlled breathing. In the 1980s, the CIA funded a declassified program called the Gateway Process. One of the core findings was this: breathing patterns directly regulate what frequency your brain operates at. Specifically, around 5 to 6 breaths per minute synchronizes your heart rate variability and increases blood flow to the prefrontal cortex. The military already knew this. Navy SEALs call it box breathing. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds hold. It takes about 2 minutes, and the research shows it drops cortisol levels and literally primes your brain for deep focus. I know what you're thinking. Mate, you just described breathing. Fair. But you've been doing it like someone who learned to cook by watching a campfire. There's breathing, and then there's breathing with intent. They are genuinely not the same thing. The second part of the method is about how CIA field operatives were trained to structure their mental tasks, and it comes down to something called chunking. Operatives were taught to group information into distinct chunks and to give each chunk a clear start and end signal. Before switching tasks, you literally say, either out loud or in your head, "That task is done. I'm moving on." It sounds almost embarrassingly simple, but neurologically, it creates a cognitive bookmark. It tells your brain you can stop processing that. Researchers at Florida State University tested this directly. People who wrote a plan for an unfinished task before moving to a new one showed significantly less attentional residue. The act of closing a mental loop frees up working memory. When researchers started looking at elite athletes, surgeons, and chess grandmasters, they found the same pattern: deliberate task closure, controlled pre-performance breathing, context separation. They'd all independently landed on the same system. Meanwhile, the rest of us are checking Slack mid-sentence, eating lunch while answering emails, and then wondering why by 3 p.m. our brain feels like wet cement. It's not a willpower problem. It's an architecture problem, and architecture can be fixed. So here's the full protocol. Step 1, before any important task, do 2 minutes of box breathing. 4-4-4-4, set a timer, don't skip this. This is the neurological reset. Step 2, write a 1-sentence closure statement for whatever you were just doing. Email draft done, moving to project work. That's enough. You're creating a cognitive bookmark. Step 3, work in focused blocks, ideally 50 to 90 minutes, without switching context. Every time you switch, you're not losing seconds. You're losing the next half hour because it takes 23 minutes to regain full focus. Step 4, at the end of each block, write a brief open loop note. What's left to do? This offloads the task from your working memory entirely, so your brain isn't spending background processing power trying to remember where you left off. That's the full system: breathe, close, focus, document. The CIA wasn't trying to create geniuses, they were trying to make people consistently reliable under pressure. Go try the box breathing, 2 minutes. You'll be surprised.